You're going to spend your very precious time finding out why somebody didn't choose you. They just reached out to that second person and offered them a job. What happens when you apply for a job and the interview goes great, everything goes well, and the company goes, look, we've had a lot of people come in and apply, we've interviewed lots of people, and we will let you know one way or another if we're going to call you back. We'll let you know if you got the job or not. And they assure you that they pride themselves on calling you back. And you say, I like this place, I love the work, I want to be here, I'll be waiting for your call. So what should you do if you get in a situation to where you're ghosted by a company after an interview? This is one of the most common occurrences, one of the most common things that happens in the workplace, that happens during the application process, where somebody says, and typically it's, oh, I'll give you a call, but they never do. And they say it so passively and dismissively that they're not going to call you back. But there are times when you actually get to the interview and they're very heartfelt. They let you know that they're definitely going to call you back. And normally in these situations, and I think we'd all be in the same boat, and we would say, well, just screw those people and move on. Well, that's absolutely true, but that's about 50% of the situations. There's actually a couple other possibilities that could be going on here. And so let's dive into those situations today. Just to use as an example, we have this on Reddit, where this person says, is it normal to be ghosted when a company assured you they would give you an answer? I really had a good feeling about this company, and they had been very communicative up to this point. They were a smaller company, and their team seemed to be easygoing. I interviewed with them twice, and the second one, which they confirmed was last week on Monday. They told me they would let me know either way on Friday, and I got nothing. After a few interviews, they assured me they did not like to leave their applicants without an answer. I'm just confused because they were trying to hire me, and another person needed to meet with corporate to discuss this, and they told me that meeting was going to take place last week on Wednesday. I'm planning on sending a follow-up email on Friday. And then, they just kind of rounded out with, this job market seems to be horrible, even if you have 2+ years of direct experience and a degree. I haven't stopped applying for jobs in the meantime. Just want to vent about how close I thought I was. And now I'm assuming they chose the other applicant over me and just don't want to tell me. So yes, this is actually quite common, especially if we're down to 2 applicants. Being on the other side, being the HR, being the person who has to make the decision, you kind of get to a point to where you're like, yeah, we got to pick one or the other. I mean, we could try to pick both. We'd like to pick both, but we have to pick one or the other. Now, when you're in a situation and you pick one, from the employer standpoint, believe it or not, it's kind of like, yay, we got somebody. And you're so darn excited and you're committed. You just drafted Caleb Williams. There's nobody else left on the draft board because you got your guy. And I'm not kidding. That's actually a lot of times how it feels. And so when you do that, you actually kind of forget about the other person. And this is why people get ghosted so often in instances where it's down to 2 people and nobody ever tells you didn't get a job. It's actually one of the main reasons why people don't get called back after they don't get the job, is because the other people, the employer, is just so darn excited that they picked somebody. Now, with that said, there are a couple other instances that can occur. Now, there's a good chance they already picked the other person. I have worked with an employer who, in one instance, had 2 people. They had to choose between one or the other. Both would have worked. They've been happy with either one. But what they did, and they didn't tell the other candidate that they didn't choose, but they chose one and just strung along the second one. And in this process, they waited. And after about 3 months, they realized, we need more people. And instead of interviewing more people, they just reached out to that second person and offered them a job. Now, in that story, the first person turned out to be not so great. The second person turned out to be wonderful. But they didn't know that because, like I said, hiring managers usually suck at picking people. They're not like me. Most hiring managers have no clue of what they're doing. Okay, but that's not what we're talking about today. And so that's one situation where ghosting can have a big impact. I know for me personally, in an odd instance, I interviewed at a place and they said, well, we really want to hire you and we'll let you know one way or another. And they never let me know. They never let me know. I called them. I had a great rapport with the director of IT at the time. We talked. She was wonderful. We got along really well, but she never said what was going on. It turned out their company was in the middle of acquiring another company. And when they were acquiring the company, they also acquired all their IT people. And so when they acquired all their IT people, they no longer needed to hire somebody directly for their office because they had all these new people. But they could have just told me that. And so that is another instance. Another reason they may be ghosting you is that maybe they're slow. Believe it or not, while it's so important for you to get a job because you're trying to build your life, you're trying to build your career, there are actually employers who are so darn slow on finalizing an employment process and doing the onboarding process, just plain making a decision. Because they got to get approval from not just their manager, but a manager above that. And they just can't be bothered with making a decision as to whether they're going to hire you or not. In a lot of these cases, what I have found is that they do actually plan on hiring you. They like you, but they never tell you that. They can't just call you and say, hey, we plan on hiring you, just letting you know. They just say, oh, great, thanks for interviewing. And then they go into meetings in a week. They say, well, we're going to have a meeting with my boss next week, so I'll talk to them at that point. And then a week later, that meeting happens, and the boss goes, oh, okay, you would like to hire that person. You found somebody. Okay, great. All right, let me check it over with my boss. I'm meeting with them 2 weeks from now. And then 2 weeks passes by, and that person meets with their boss. And instead of just calling, what they like to do is some of these managers like to say, okay, we have regular work, and then we have specific weekly meetings where we discuss things that are impacting our team, but we're not going to talk about them right now. We only talk about things during that one meeting. And of course, as you would expect, and a lot of times these companies don't generally get people very well because they really struggle to bring somebody on. Usually the only people who end up getting hired in these positions are people who sat around and try to apply for other jobs and didn't get hired, and then one day get called. I know in my case, I had a situation when I was a crop adjuster, when I became a crop adjuster, and it's actually the only time ever I got a job applying for a job through an online job board. The only time ever. I applied for a job, and 2 months after I had applied for the job, I got a phone call about this crop adjusting position I had applied for. And it just so happened that 2 months into the job hunting process, I still didn't have a job. And so I was like, yeah, sure, cool. I mean, I had given up on them. I pretty much didn't think they would ever call me, but hey, they did. And I interviewed and I got hired really fast. But it took 2 months for them to reach out to me. Now, what is that? Now, in all reality, there's a good chance in that situation, the employer just hadn't looked at their applicants online. Maybe they had an Indeed posting, but they didn't actually look at it for a month and a half. They didn't ever thought to actually check it to see if anybody had applied. Or also a possibility that maybe they just started going through all the applicants and started looking. Maybe they had 1,000 people apply, and it took them, I don't know, a month and a half in order to find somebody who actually fit the qualifications like I happened to at the time. And so ghosting, like in this situation, like I said, there are many reasons why you could end up being ghosted. And it's just the reality of it. And so what should you do in this situation? This person is talking about It's just talk about sending an email. I'll tell you what. I know the generation that it is. I know we're talking about Gen Z. We're talking about millennials. We're talking about Gen X. Whatever it is. We'll just say the cell phone age. We'll just talk about it. The cell phone age. The smartphone age. We think that emails are the best way to go. We do. And I know why. And there is actually a practical reason for it. But the real reason that we do that is it's easy. Right? We all want to do the easy thing. Just type up an email. We get a chance to think about it. We get to send what we actually want to send. And we see what happens. The problem is a lot of these people get so many emails that they may not respond. They just may not. They may never see it. Or they just may not respond. If you can, reach out to the HR department. Call them. Say, hey, I applied for this job. You said you would contact me on Friday, and I haven't heard anything. What's going on with that? And I'll tell you what's going to happen. The person can go, yeah, let me have you talk to the hiring manager. And they'll push it away. They'll shoo you away to the hiring manager. And the hiring manager will be, oh, yes, we interviewed 2 people, and we chose the other person. We think you're fantastic, and we want to hire you again. We hope that you consider us in the future. But right now, we've chosen somebody else. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to spend your time following up, finding out why you didn't get the job. Now think about that for a moment. You're going to follow up. You're going to spend your time. Maybe you don't have a job. You're going to spend your very precious time finding out why somebody didn't choose you, or finding out that somebody didn't choose you. Now, it could be that if you call them, maybe it turns out that they are planning on hiring you, and they're just waiting for budgeting to work out so they can bring in somebody new. But the time that you spend writing that email, you're probably going to spend half hour, if you're really trying to be very careful with it. What, you could just call them. Just call. Spend some time, just 5 minutes. Take the time, 5 minutes, make the call, get it over with. But they say the right thing here. They say that they're still moving. And so what should you do in this situation? You should just call the HR people. Honestly, I mean, that's what they're there for. Don't waste any time with emails. Don't do anything like that. You can, but just call them. Especially if they're like this, they're a smaller company. They're going to take your phone call. Stop it. Just stop. Now, during any job application process, you always want to make sure that you are applying for multiple jobs. And so just understand that urgency is really important. And many employers actually base whether they hire somebody or promote somebody based off of how urgent somebody seems to work, how urgent somebody seems to be. And so if you call somebody in the late afternoon at 3 o'clock and you're like, hey, just wanted to see how things are going, obviously the situation is not that urgent. But if you call them at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, something of that nature, well, maybe you need to know an answer right away. And so that's my suggestion. You call them early in the morning. You say, hey, try to find out what's happened to me in this situation. Need to find out if I got this job or not. I have these other applications. I have this other interview I'm going to. So call them at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and just ask and find out right away. Because as soon as you can get off of that thought that you're going to work for that company, the better off you'll be. Now, if you're lucky, and the other reason to call, so you want to call to find out, the other reason to call is you may actually receive feedback, because you won't receive feedback if it's by email, but you may actually talk to the hiring manager and they might provide feedback to you as to why you didn't get the job, because it's kind of unofficial. It's not documented. There's, somebody might just off the cuff tell you why you didn't get the job. Or they may say, well, we do plan on hiring you, but maybe just not right now. Now that could happen as well. And there are multiple reasons to call. So beyond calling and just finding out whether you got the job or not, also call because you may end up talking to the hiring manager and you might A, find out more details about why you didn't get the job, or B, you may find out that they do plan on bringing you on and that they actually have a lot of openings coming up. In other instances, a hiring manager may say, I didn't think you were the right person for this job, but I really hope that you apply for this job over here. And that can happen as well. And a lot of times just stepping out of your comfort zone and being aggressive and being urgent and finding the situation urgent in your case may actually provide you an opportunity, may communicate to the hiring manager that this is somebody that we want on our team. See, it's another opportunity. It's another touch point. It's another opportunity for you to prove yourself. It's another opportunity for you to engage with the hiring manager, another opportunity to show them what you possibly can provide their company. That's it for today. I'm SP Graham. This is Jobferno. If you have any questions, send me an email at questions@jobferno.com. And as always, choose skills over money.